show that will help you. I am there for him. I am there for you because it is a whole new WCW.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another episode of Wrestling's Worst Podcast, where we celebrate the utter shite that has been delivered to us in the wonderful world of professional wrestling. And as you've probably seen on Twitter and Facebook over the last couple of days, from here on out, this is now a two-man team. I am joined, you may have heard him, he's been on this show once before when we chewed the fat about John Cena. You may have heard me on his show, he's part of the Match Wrestling Podcast. That is one Dave Gillum, otherwise known as The Butcher. Welcome to the show, sir. How are we doing today?
It's a fine morning in the United Kingdom. The sun is shining through my window, and I'm hungover like fuck. So, most people, you go out on the town, and you can't. It's one of them days when you just think, oh, sun's shining, go out for a few beers, sit in the beer garden. I'm in that sort of scenario now. My head is up my ass. I just want to sit in a dark room and rock like Mankind.
Oh, it's always one of the biggest wastes of a weekend, that is when you go all out on a Friday. Because it's all well and good, because obviously you've been working all week, so you want to hit Friday night like everybody does. But if you hit it too hard, you're ruining your Saturday. And
ruins your weekend.
It's telling you if you hit it too hard, because I don't know about you, Dave, but I'm that point in life now where if I have one hard day, I need maybe a day and a half, sometimes 2 days, before I'm fully 100% again.
It ruins your entire month, not a week or a day. Good times, though. Good times.
Speaking of, I want to say speaking of good times, but it also wasn't. What this next episode is going to be on, guys, we're going to do it split over 2 parts because it's a long ass period of time, and we want to give A, our own little take on it, and B, try and work out if Vince Russo was really to blame as much as other people proclaim that he is, and that is looking at the final year of WCW. So what we're going to do, obviously WCW closed in March 2001. That was the last ever episode of Nitro that they had from Panama City. So we're going to go 12 months before that, and we're going to start in March 2000. Now, in March, April 2000, Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff were brought back to WCW, and they did a massive big reboot of Monday Nitro where they stripped all the titles off everybody and wanted to just start again. So we're gonna start a month before that and kind of look at firstly the last pay-per-view before the reboot, and then obviously we're gonna pick it up from the reboot and run with it all the way to the end until the last Nitro, and then we'll try and kind of decipher who actually was to blame. What do you kind of remember from 2000 Monday Nitro? So, were you very much a WWE boy and watched Nitro when you could, or were you a WCW guy?
Oh, you couldn't be any further from the truth. I tell you what, if you growing up, it was probably easier to watch. Obviously, your NWAs, WCWs, because I'm sure positive actually they were on. I think when Channel 5 first started, I'm sure WCW was on Channel 5. So obviously,
was it the Worldwide? Was that WCW Worldwide or something that was on Channel 5?
I think so. And it was obviously easier to get hold of. And obviously when I'd seen WCW in like the early days, but I think when I first actually proper got into it, it was just as the NWO was kind of taking off. So obviously, you wouldn't be watching WWE or WWF as it was at the time, because the NWO was just the freaking, you know what I mean? It was the be all and end all, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
It was just like some of the best stuff you've ever watched, and then you kind of got to the era. Really, I think it would be. It would. Do you know what? It would be random about what we're going to talk about now. That you just kind of looked at it and you just thought, what the fuck's gone wrong?
The problem I always found with it was I was like going back to like 95, 96 or maybe 96, 97 when the NWO first started coming about. So I watched like on a Friday you got Raw started at 9. Nitro started at 9, and then Raw started at 10. So I used to always get the first hour of Nitro, and then after Raw finished at 12. Thunder had already started, so you got the last hour of Thunder as well. So it you kind of got the start of storylines and the end of storylines. But from what I remember, like pay-per-views were never available. You kind of always got pay-per-views as your information was just screenshots that were shown on the following Nitro.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
For me, coming into 2000, WCW was still trying to jump on or live off the hype from the NWO 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And you were still pushing, instead of putting work in to create new guys, and as we'll see in this next year, they still live off the hype of what they had 3-4 years ago.
You know, obviously, when you repackaging, there was never any repackaging. So some of the guys there were still holding on to old glories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, perfect example, Buff fucking Bagwell.
Oh, dear.
You know what I mean? Buff Bagwell. Look at Buff's earlier stuff when he was known as Marcus Bagwell.
Good use of the word stuff.
Yeah, and the guy was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, when he was in America, when he was in the American Males,
and then he basically tagged up with Scott Steiner, became a bag carrier with the NWO, wore that stupid fucking top hat, and then when you start competing for your mum on a pole,
yeah,
it's time to walk away. And you know, you look at the, you know, obviously the state of his career after it. WWE, you know, take a lot of slack for hiring guys that are shit, but they had the common sense to say to Buff Bagwell, "You're shit."
Yeah. Well, I think it come to the point, wasn't it, where his mum actually rang in sick for him, and said he can't come to the show. Buff Bagwell's mum rang in sick and said he can't come to the show. Do you know what I mean?
Still living in his mum's basement.
Do you know, that's it. I think, well, from what I remember last reading, he's now working as an escort, offering the stuff at an affordable price.
You can imagine that conversation. Mom! What's that, Buff? Can you phone Vince for me and tell him I'm not coming in today? I got a stomach ache.
Hi, is that Vince McMahon? Hi, it's Buff Bagwell's mum, Judy. Buff's not coming in today. The stuff's not right.
Yeah, it probably is. That's exactly what it is. Tell him it's against company policies. Tell him he's got to ring himself.
Yeah, he can't text. He's got to ring in. Just imagine.
You imagine that conversation, Vince.
Oh.
Hi, Buff. Hi, Vince. I'm not coming in today, or tomorrow, or possibly the rest of the week. Why? I got a stomach ache. You got a stomach ache, Buff. If I have had a headache for the last 3 years, and that's because I watched WCW.
You're fired. But that's exactly how it went. Right, so before we get into the thick of the pay-per-views, let's just have a quick overview of the year of 2000 for WCW. Now, obviously, you've come off the back of the Monday Night Wars. They miserably come off the back of the Monday Night Wars after Eric Bischoff thought it was funny to release Raw's results, and obviously absolutely backfired him in that massively famous moment when Mankind won the WWF title. Now, at this time, obviously, the main eventers, let's say, were majority was ex-WWF talent from the 80s and early 90s. They were running roughshod because of the creative freedoms that Bischoff granted them. And it was hurting the promotion, as such performers, they were less than cooperative in making stars out of the young performers, as we'll get to see. Now, once Bischoff was relieved of his duties in 1999, Vince Russo, a former story writer for the WWF, he came aboard as lead writer of all WCW storylines. Now, this was where the problem started, because in the WWF, as it's publicly known, he had a bit of a filter in Vince McMahon. WCW, he was the filter. All these wacky fucking ideas in his brain, we were about to see over the next 12 months. Now, Russo, he would not last long in his role. He departed for the first time in January 2000, but WCW opted to bring Russo back with Eric Bischoff in April 2000, as we just mentioned a bit ago, in hopes that the duo might re-spark flagging fan interest in WCW. Now, the two, this is where another issue started. They didn't get along. Do you know what I mean? You've brought these two in, they didn't get along, and Bischoff, he soon resigned from what we start to become a very sinking company. Now, only a few months later, Russo would depart after suffering a concussion at the hands of Bill Goldberg. Now, although he remained under contract for the rest of WCW's existence, following his departure, the creative team was then handed over, or the creative needs were handed over to a new booking committee of fucking John Laurinaitis, People Power, and the Red Rooster, Terry Taylor. Now, as 2000 came to a close, a number of potential buyers for WCW were rumoured to show interest in the company. But Ted Turner, however, still had a position of influence at Time Warner prior to the final merger of AOL and Time Warner in 2001. And most offers were rejected. Now, Eric Bischoff, working with Fusion Media Ventures, he made a bid to acquire the company in January 2001, shortly following the AOL Time Warner merger. And it appeared at this stage that WCW would continue. Now, after one of the primary backers in the WCW deal backed out, this left Bischoff to take the offer to the table while attempting to bring a new deal around. Now, in the meantime, the WWF, they founded W Acquisition Company in late 2000 and began speaking to the new AOL Time Warner merger about acquiring the WCW brand. A gentleman at Turner Broadcasting by the name of Jamie Kellner was handed control in the sports division and deemed WCW, along with Turner Sports, basically it was too old for its boots and we wanted it off the network. Because of that, WCW, their programme was cancelled on TBS and TNT, leaving Vince McMahon's company, which at the time had an exclusive deal with Viacom, free to acquire all the trademarks, video libraries, and the few contracts of World Championship Wrestling, and that came to an end. Now, Butcher, do you have any idea how much WWE purchased WCW for?
I would say next to nothing. They didn't own. I would say they didn't own any arenas.
No, very true.
So there was no fees there.
I'll give you an idea of what they bought. They've bought the name and the brand and all the trademarks of WCW. They've bought very few remaining contracts, and they've also bought the video library.
Right. I think I would say less than 100 million.
Oh, fuck yeah. Hell yeah.
I would say you're probably talking around 40 million.
It's not even 5 million.
Wow.
They bought the name and the brand and the contracts for 2.5 million, and the video
my lord.
And the video library for 1.7 million.
Jesus Christ.
Imagine the content that they have bought for 1.7 million. Imagine how much that would be worth if they wanted to sell that on. Imagine if TNA were ever got... Oh, you can't say that anymore, can you? Imagine if Impact Wrestling hit the highs of what they were supposed to be and the second company. And imagine if they decided one day to purchase... Completely hypothetical thinking. They decided one day they wanted to purchase WCW's video library off of WWE, and it was complete roles reverse. Imagine how much they'd sell that for, and they bought it for 1.7 million.
You know what, right? You told me that. You would be so bitter. Do you know what I mean? You would be so bitter, if you were Eric Bischoff, because you'd think, obviously, with all due respect to those people, obviously, that, paved the way, obviously, for the likes of the NWO. But, you know what? Wow. I'm actually quite shocked. I am proper shocked there. That's pocket money. That's pocket money for Vince.
Yeah.
And you look at how much money he's just made. Possibly, with... You got to remember, WWE fans and WWF fans of the day have probably got a lot of this material already on DVDs, VHS. But acquiring stuff like ECW and WCW only made Vince more money.
Oh, of course. Well, look what's happened.
Only
over the
made
years.
Vince more money.
We're now on the network. Do you know what I mean? The network. Granted, it would have been a success, I firmly believe, if it was purely WWE product, because of all the content that they have available. But the fact that they can offer WCW and ECW and have exclusive access to everything, that brings in old WCW and ECW fans as well, that maybe didn't watch or don't watch current WWE product.
I'm absolutely shocked. He'd been laughing to the bank, wouldn't he?
Absolutely. With the just instantly, within days, he could make money off that. Just with the whole, obviously, because once you saw instantly when WWE bought WCW, They did the whole rebrand straight away. Do you know what I mean? You had a new logo and
Yeah.
everything. So they've put a bit of money in that as well. But instantly with all the merchandise they can sell, every single wrestler they've got on their roster that's linked to the old WCW, whack a new T-shirt out with that new logo on.
Well, you've got to think. There was a point in WCW, I would say between 97 and 99. Obviously, you know your Monday Night Wars and stuff like that. That you got to think how possibly close did WWE go to going under themselves?
Very. If Vince would have gone down as well, when it was the
there's no ifs or buts about that.
If Vince would have gone down, that was done. But then they survived that, and how they got through 95 and 96, because it was a vile year in wrestling. When WCW doing what they were doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they'd not, I think you've got to look at it that if they not have, Bischoff had not told Schiavone to start giving Monday Night Raw results away, and they'd not had the whole Mankind incident, and Mankind had not won the belt. And maybe if they'd not had the DX invade WCW, you know, if all these kind of moments didn't happen, then imagine if WCW won the war. I've always said that it could be a complete.
Exactly.
Would wrestling still be a thing? Because
when you look at it, I don't think it would have happened. I don't think you would have ever seen like the likes of WCW purchasing WWE, because I think Vince McMahon had the ego where he would rather just freaking burnt everything. But yeah, you know what I mean. Just imagine that if you could just see, you know what I mean. One of them. Let's do a Wayne's World ending. You know, you imagine it on shoe on the other foot. If WCW was the big dog. Because there was a time when it was very fucking close.
Yeah, this fucking time wasn't close. I think in 2000, if they wanted to become the big dog, it's a lot of fucking hard work.
Oh mate, they would have had to strip everything.
Yeah,
you know.
Well,
this is why we do this podcast, because you know we kind of analyze and we talk about shit.
Like what I class as shit, like 2013, 12, 11 WWE. Because that over like the past 10 years was some of the worst shit I've ever seen. But compare this to what we're about to go through, that's fucking amazing. So let's kick off with the first pay-per-view before the Nitro reboot. So Uncensored 2000 March. We'll quickly just go through the card. It kicked off with the artist formerly known as Prince Iaukea defeated Psychosis for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Now, I had issues with Prince Iaukea. I had so many issues with him. He wasn't a cruiserweight. He wasn't the size of a cruiserweight. So, I mean, it's like they put it on, as we'll see in a few episodes' time, they stick it on Candido as well. Candido ain't no fucking cruiserweight.
Yeah, it's just desperation, wasn't it? It's desperation.
Absolutely. Then we move on to Norman Smiley and the Demon defeated Lane and Rave, they were billed as, who went on to be Lenny Lane and Lodi, which must have been an amazing tag team match. 3 minutes and 41 seconds that bad boy went for. I skipped over that. Then we had a
Demon.
And then we had Bam Bam Bigelow defeated The Wall by disqualification.
I didn't mind The Wall, if I'm honest.
The Wall was I
quite liked him.
I liked. Was he was in the Misfits in Action, wasn't he? Was it AWOL?
Yeah.
I loved the Misfits in Action. I thought they were just a merry band of jobbers. But obviously they were. It's like you're taking. This is pure Russo. Do you know what I mean? It's pure. This comes from Russo's fucking piss. You take the job squad, what you created in WCW, in WWF, and you take that, times it by 20, pump it full of fucking hyperactive drugs, and then stick Booker T in there. It was too much. When you've got a team like that, you don't push them. Do you know what I mean? They're there to be taken the piss out of.
Yeah.
And he pushed them. Moving on, our next match was for the hardcore title. It was Brian Knobbs of Nasty Boys fame defeated Free Count of Evan Courageous, Shannon Moore, and Shane Helms. 3-on-1. Let's
Brian Knobbs
fucking destroy the up and coming talent.
Brian Knobbs. Brian Knobbs' best friend is freaking Hulk Hogan. So he was taught by a lot of people call the master, the be all and end all. Hulk Hogan is a fucking ass.
Yes.
Overrated piece of shit. And that rubbed off onto a lot of guys, and there was never going to be any security while people like that existed in a company.
Especially when you are dying. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
imagine that there is thoughts in their minds at the minute. Yeah, we're in March, it's 2000, but things aren't going good. Do you know what I mean? Things are not going good. And you're still putting faith and title runs on people like you've not even got the Nasty Boys as a tag team for a nostalgia run. Do you know what I mean? You are pushing Brian Knobbs as a single. Granted, it's hardcore, but as a single fucking compare.
Yeah, yeah.
And
100%.
speaking of single compares that fucking sucked, right, and went on for tag team fame in WCW, the next match was a team of Billy Kidman and Booker T defeated Harlem Heat 2000 of Stevie Ray and Ahmed Big T fucking Johnson.
What happened to him?
He got
come off
fat.
the steroids, that's what.
He got steroids. He got steroids, and maybe he stopped working out, so he just got fat.
Booker T.
And as we're going to get to further down the line, where they have that epic feud over the letter T. Because as I believe at this time, he's not going by Booker T, he's just Booker, because Big T's nicked the T. They may have already had this T match, actually, thinking about it. Yeah, I think they've already had the T match, which is why he's just going as Booker.
Absolutely shocking.
Next match was a Falls Count Anywhere affair between Vampiro. He defeated Fit Finlay. I can't imagine.
Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a bad match. It wasn't a bad match. But it was still shit.
I hate Vampiro.
I do.
I despise Vampiro. Vampiro is one of them that he tries to put the gimmick before the wrestler, and only the Undertaker ever managed to do that successfully.
That's what he did, man. He was one of them. He sat down, didn't he, and thought, "What can I do? I know.
Yeah,
I like him.
Different?
I'll take his gimmick.
Yeah, how can I be different? But use somebody else's gimmick as a fucking blueprint.
Yeah.
So up next we had the tag team titles match, which I didn't mind this match. I thought it was half decent, but it had two teams that are despised by a lot of WCW fans in late 2000. The Harris brothers, Ron and Don, or Skull and 8-Ball from DOA fame, defeated the Mamalukes of Big Vito and Johnny the Bull. I liked the Mamalukes.
Cousins.
I liked the Mamalukes.
I didn't dislike them. I didn't dislike them, but it was one of them things. I think, every fucking, it doesn't matter what promotion it was, but every promotion had the equivalent of a mafia.
Oh, Italian stereotypes. Oh, yeah.
You had the FBI, the full-blooded Italians in ECW. And this was basically a freaking, you know what I mean?
WWE tried to do it. Can you remember when WWE brought back the FBI and you had Nunzio as an original member, then you had fucking Johnny the Bull, who was with Big Vito, obviously, in the Mamalukes. And then you had Palumbo as well. Chuck fucking Palumbo playing this fucking mafia character. The final push of Chuck fucking Palumbo. Up next was a fucking dire affair. It was Dustin Rhodes defeated Terry Funk in a bull rope match, which went on for 9 minutes.
Off his dad's past glories.
And they are pushing Dustin Rhodes still.
Living off his dad's freaking glories. He was just, I don't want to sound negative towards Dustin Rhodes. And, and isn't, I just look at it now and I just think, you were a cheap rip-off of your father.
But he was going through, what you got to think about though with Dustin Rhodes, especially at this time, from what you hear from him and read from him, like what he's published, he was going through a dark period of time at this point. So you got to think he comes out at the end of this, he signs back with WWE for is it 2003? I think he comes back.
Yeah.
But then he's not around for long because he's still on the meds and the drugs and stuff. And then we get obviously Black Rain in fucking TNA a bit further down the line where he's in his dark days.
Black Rain and Relic.
Oh my God. Next match. Was Sting defeated the total package, Lex Luger, in a lumberjack match in 7 minutes and 1 second. I fucking hate Lex Luger.
You know what? Yes.
I just don't like seeing him wrestle. I didn't like watching him wrestle in the
I just thought he looked awkward.
He does. He wrestles stiff.
He looked awkward, man. You have to watch him. He was one of those guys that when you watched him, he was in a position, no matter which company he went to, he was always in a top position, and that was basically down to Sting.
Yeah.
You know, the
Well,
reason
Sting
why he was in the
Sting
position
brought
he
him back,
was.
didn't he? He brought him
Yeah,
back, and
yeah,
there's the famous comment from Bischoff that he offered him like, was it half or a quarter of what he wanted, and
yeah,
he took it
yeah.
anyway because he was just desperate to be on fucking TV.
You know, a lot of it. A lot of his success comes from the fact that he was a freaking roidhead.
Oh, aye, fucking
You
hell.
know, he was a roidhead. He looked good, but he was possibly one of the laziest in-ring workers. Well, you don't have to watch his stuff. The guy had zero ability. I think we hit on this quite a bit, you know, because people know I despise John Cena.
No.
You know, really. You know, John Cena having his 5 moves of doom, and you know, our text conversation that went on for like over an hour last night.
Yeah.
You know, and you look. I mean, it's gonna obviously a future episode. We're not going to do any spoilers, but Luger's name was mentioned. And you look at some of these guys. We got 5 moves of doom. A certain somebody who you mentioned had 3 moves.
3 moves of doom. Yeah.
And then Lex Luger.
He got 1.
Exactly.
No, he's got 2 because he's got his
That's
claws.
what it is.
He's got his metal arm clothesline and his torture rack.
Do you know what I mean? It's just absolutely shambolic.
Terrible. He's absolutely terrible. Lex Luger is, I would say he's worse than Goldberg. Definitely. He's got clothesline, punching uncomfortable punches, and his torture rack, which looks uncomfortable. I wouldn't like to be on receiving end because he just looks like it's not even like he's holding you right. So we move on. Our next match is for the WCW World Heavyweight Title. Big fucking Psycho Sid Vicious with the victory over Jeff Jarrett, and he holds it for 1 fucking night.
It's bad, isn't it?
Until the reboot Nitro, and then let's get to the main event. Yapapaya Indian strap match. Hulk Hogan defeats Ric Flair.
Again, it's just you go through that card.
Your last 3 matches.
11 matches, right? And not the only match that went over 10 minutes is Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. 14
and a half minutes nearly.
Yeah.
But you got to think the last 3 matches, they consisted of Sting, Lex Luger, Psycho Sid, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, and Jeff Jarrett. Oh, he's had his day, in my opinion.
I like Jeff Jarrett. I've always considered Jeff Jarrett to be underrated.
I didn't dislike him, but I've never seen him as main event.
I always said Jeff Jarrett was always better when Jeff Jarrett was being Jeff Jarrett. You know, not wandering around in stupid freaking cowboy hat and stupid glasses like they had WWE had him doing.
Yeah.
You know, with the country and western singer. Absolutely terrible. Jeff Jarrett was best, man, when he's got his guitar and he's smashing you over the head with it.
Yeah.
You know, and that famous slogan, "Choke on that slap nuts." I freaking loved that.
I never got the slap nuts thing till I was older. I never got that it meant having a wank.
I just think he's freaking. I just think Jeff Jarrett was absolutely. He was a very, very intelligent, person, and we've seen that. We've seen that with TNA. A lot of people don't like the product, but you go and watch TNA from 2002 all the way to 2000. I think it was around 2006, 2007, where Jarrett was obviously. Having a difficult time with the company, and Angle had come in 2005. I think it was 2005.
Yeah, 2005.
I think it was 2005. Obviously, Jeff Jarrett was having an affair with Kurt's Mrs. Karen Angle, who's now Karen Jarrett, and Dixie Carter came in, and I think it was basically one of them things. Who's the most valuable commodity? And it was Kurt Angle, and Kurt basically said, "Listen, Dixie, I can go back to taking WWE and earn more money than I'm earning here, or you can just get rid of Jeff." And that's exactly how it went. So those people are basically always say, "Well, what happened with that GFW TNA thing?" Jeff Jarrett had no intention of freaking working with TNA. No. Jeff Jarrett's main intentions was basically to freaking abolish that company. I firmly believe that. It wasn't his baby anymore.
He did a job,
you know, and exactly that's exactly. And now he's back. And now he's back at the helm with no Dixie Carter.
Fucking hell.
Very intelligent man. That's all I'll say.
Just a shame. It's just a shame Kurt Angle's just signed for WWE. Try and get him back. They'll have a feud again where they'll have a fucking MMA match.
That was terrible.
Right, here's a couple of little bits for you in regards to what we've just gone through. It did a 0.13 buy rate.
Wow.
One of the lowest in WCW's history, and that prompted Brad Siegel at the time to do the enormous overhaul and obviously bring back Bischoff and Russo. Now, the venue for Uncensored was at the American Airlines Arena in Miami. Now, the venue had only opened in December of the previous year and held nearly 20,000 people. How many did WCW stick in there?
I'd say less than 1,000.
Oh no, give him a bit more credit.
Around 4.
5 touching, just.
Wow.
And that's with paper in it as well, I imagine. To get it to 5.
Unbelievable.
Very much so. So after the disaster that was Uncensored, WCW decided it was time for a change. Kevin Sullivan was sent home, and Brad Siegel, the guy in charge of WCW for Turner, brought Bischoff and Russo back. Now, the idea behind it being that Russo helped turn the WWF around, while Bischoff turned WCW around in the mid-90s. Now, surely combined, they'd be able to turn around WCW's ailing fortunes in 2000. The idea was, on the surface, a good one, because it got everyone talking about WCW again. Most people had forgotten WCW even existed during the first 4 months of the year. Because the WWF had been on such an enormous successful run of blowaway shows, the WCW didn't get a look in. Foley's retirement angle helped build up towards WrestleMania. After the biggest show of the year, the WWF pulled the trigger on the summer-long Rock vs. Triple H program, and that absolutely destroyed WCW in the ratings. Now, the plan from Russo and Bischoff was to reset everything. They'd start WCW all over again, so they'd strip all the champions of their titles and just start fresh. What were your thoughts? Can you remember watching, Butcher, this episode of Nitro, where all of a sudden, everyone's in the ring, Bischoff, Russo comes out, and everyone's got a hand over the bells? I remember watching that thinking, because that was like the first start. John was going back earlier saying I watched the first hour of Nitro, then moved over to Raw. This was like the first segment. I was like, what the fuck? What are you doing? That's how you devalue every title.
Yeah,
like
it was one of the biggest screw jobs in wrestling. it was more of a screw job than Brett and Shawn.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't. It just led to freaking obviously just It was for me. It just you took titles off everyone and it just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
It just led to some of the worst matches and pointless matches and more 3-minute, 4-minute matches.
I think the only positive thing coming into this was there's obviously going into the next pay-per-view, which was Spring Stampede.